Hello, and thank you for listening. Today we'll be discussing why you should automate your department's workflow. This presentation will be relevant to you if your department or organization struggles with inefficient processes and you'd like to know what options there are for automating your workflow and improving efficiency. We'll cover the following topics: the manual workflow problem, how workflow automation works, why workflow automation has become a critical technology for so many companies, important workflow automation features and technologies of a modern-day workflow automation platform. We'll discuss the differences between BPM versus automation workflow, and finally we'll go over some examples and ROI related to successful workflow implementations. Starting in the mid-70s, computers and software slowly began to transform the workplace. Over the next 40 years, primarily in the 90s, companies began using enterprise databases, ERP, CRM, HRMS. Soon, mobile and cloud technologies came into play, leading us to today's always-on connected business. However, despite all that progress, some business processes haven't changed in decades, causing day-to-day frustration, wasted time, money, and effort. For example, some companies have awkwardly tried to apply new technology to improve workflow, like creating forms out of Excel worksheets and using email to route them for review and approval. It was better than the old days of moving paper from desk to desk, but not much better. It's still terribly manual and inefficient. Handling workflow with manual tools like email impact businesses in a number of negative ways. Number one, lack of visibility. You send an email out to multiple folks asking for something to be done or approved, and you're never sure who's paying attention, who's out of the office, who's on vacation, or who no longer works for the company. And so you wait and send follow-up emails and reminders, all leading to more work for you and the folks involved. Number two, inefficiency. Have you ever read a long string of emails related to a request, even though your part of the process is very limited? For others, it's difficult just to find the information necessary to handle the request. Some information is in the email itself, or an attachment, or missing entirely. Number three, no consistency. Because the overall process is not well documented, or perhaps out of date, it is as if each person executes the workflow in the way they believe is correct. However, each person has their own view of correct. As a result, we have number four, a risk of errors. For instance, someone could unwittingly approve a request they shouldn't have, or provided incorrect information. Ultimately, this not only causes inefficiency and mistakes, but also provides number five, a poor user experience for both employees and customers. It's bad enough when an internal user has a bad experience. Worse yet, when a customer has had a bad experience due to an inefficient workflow. Why should you and your company care about efficient and accurate workflow execution? Well, the key reason is to stay competitive. You may not have automated your critical workflows, but some of your competitors most likely have and are reaping the benefits and taking market share. In addition, it seems like every year companies have an imperative to pull additional money out of their business and to do more with less. Attacking inefficient processes is a great way to meet those efficiency demands. That efficiency and resource surplus will give you more bandwidth to keep up with the demands of your external and internal customers. Plus, it will empower your employees by allowing them to focus on higher value work, creating better morale and less frustration. Lastly, for years, companies have had strategic initiatives to execute on a digital transformation strategy. Workflow automation, whether internal or external, should be considered as a key component of any digital transformation strategy. Let's take a look at some of the main workflows that we see our customers automating. Most are probably familiar to you as someone who either owns the process or participates in it. Capital expenditure requests. We see a lot of those. It's very hard for companies to manage their spending across multiple divisions and locations, especially when the rules that govern spending are complex and dynamic. We also see companies automating workflow around vendor approvals, T&E, hiring. We also see a lot of employee onboarding and offboarding challenges. Think about the complexity of onboarding a new employee. It's a true cross-silo workflow in order to get it right. We also see marketing collateral requests, pricing discount approvals, IT enhancements, contract reviews, client onboarding, virtually any process. In fact, we recently helped develop an automated workflow for a large finance company in the event that they ever had a security breach. Imagine the confusion and hysteria after a breach. Who needs to be contacted? What do we need to do? How long can it wait? Now, in the event that that unfortunate day ever comes, they have an automated process that orchestrates the entire process. Automated workflow candidates are only limited by your imagination. At a very high level, let's look at how we define workflow automation. We break it into 4 components: interface, forms, process, and reporting. The interface is how the process gets started. It can be started through a user portal where a user will have a menu of all the workflows that they need to do related to their job. You can also start the process via integration from another system, say an ERP. The ERP will send data to the workflow platform to kick off the process. You can also embed widgets into your other user-facing applications like an intranet. The form is where all the data is gathered and verified for completeness and accuracy, as well as ensuring that the required documents are attached. Submitting a form triggers rule-based processes. For instance, a request over a certain dollar amount might route to the CFO. Or, depending on the new employee's role, their onboarding process might run differently. And finally, reporting. The system will gather all data related to each task in the workflow and analyze efficiency. How are we doing against our KPIs, and what do we need to do to get better? What are the benefits of workflow automation? We've touched on many of these at a high level, but now let's drill a little deeper. Visibility. With your workflows automated, you can see your workflow at work, real time. You can proactively manage the work if needed, or just watch it go through its paces. It also promotes transparency and accountability. I truly believe everyone wants to do a good job, and having a completely transparent workflow process helps people do even a better job. Managers are able to identify bottlenecks and address issues with staff or issues with the process. Automating your workflows also provides visibility to compliance or financial audits. It documents the who, what, and when of every step of the workflow, and it provides a view across all silos. For instance, although you're in HR, you can track how IT, facilities, security, fleet are proceeding on a new employee's onboarding tasks. Speed. Reduced uncertainty improves workflow speed and reduces touches. Less decision time, more time for action. Employees don't waste time figuring out how to execute processes that their jobs depend on. Information is routed to only those required by the business rules. No more black holes thanks to delegation and alerts. Alerts can be set up in the frequency you desire and can even skip someone after a certain period of time, assuring that the workflow continues. For example, an unfulfilled request is escalated to a different agent after 6 hours and a supervisor after 24 hours. Consistency. Subjectivity is removed from the processes. Workflows are executed in the intended way. All tasks and activities occur in a tracked and consistent way. Exceptions are handled by consistent business rules. If it's not in the budget, you may need additional levels of involvement or approval. New compliance rules can be reacted to swiftly. New laws or company rules can be enacted easily across the board. For an example, an approval for a large expense must now have multiple checkpoints to ensure compliance. Employee morale. This may sound like a little oversell, but workflow automation can increase employee morale. How? More can be accomplished with less support. Reduce email threads and discussion over processes. Reduce decision fatigue and more value-added work. Increased transparency for all staff. For example, employees begin a process from a central, user-friendly portal and don't need to know which form to send to whom. Filling gaps in existing systems. You can replace poor or missing workflow functionality in existing systems. Automated workflow can reduce your struggle to integrate financial, CRM, HRIS, and other systems from different vendors. It can provide you the workflow that your ERP can't, while at the same time integrating with your ERP. Companies have built businesses creating workflows around ERPs while allowing their customers to save money and obtain quick ROIs. For example, automatically updating an HRIS system when an employee emails back a signed offer letter. Most HRIS systems will not support this natively. Accuracy. What does that mean? That means that the process is executed as it was meant. You'll have improved and comprehensive information gathered up front. Multiple information checkpoints during the process. Reduce sharing of information over unauthorized channels. You should see only what you are supposed to see and don't be concerned with the rest. For example, forms with drop-downs integrated from enterprise databases. This makes sure certain fields are required. You need to know less because the automated workflow knows it all. Customer service, both internal and external. Customer requests follow a consistent, optimized flow. Appropriate resources are assigned, alerted, and backed up. Response times are minimized. Organizational silos are integrated transparently. The user experience for both internal and external customers is optimized. Example, a customer portal provides one-stop shopping for all requests, and each request is escalated based on the data entered. Continuous improvement. Automated processes are easily updated and changed based on user feedback or corporate policy changes. The root cause of bottlenecks can be identified and addressed, whether human or process related. As more processes are developed, best practices emerge and can be applied to older processes. For example, a new check request process is designed with a first-in-group approval option that reduces cycle time drastically. This same technique is then applied to a travel request process. So let's talk a few minutes about important features and functions of a modern automated workflow solution. You can kind of consider the next couple slides a checklist as you go out and learn more about automated workflow platforms. First, the form designer. It should be easy to use with a drag and drop UI. It should be mobile friendly, and the layout should be responsive to all browsers. The form logic should include things like show and hide, so you only see things if you need to. Formulas and calculations should be inherent within the forms. And access to under-the-hood customization. In other words, in the event that your form doesn't do exactly what you need, you should be able to create Java code on top of what the vendor already provides you. The process builder. It should be no-code, drag-and-drop environment. Just move over the task and add it to your process. There should be a rich task library of different kinds of functions, milestones and approvals, etc. There should be the ability to be able to do parallel or sequential flows. And there should be the ability to do reminders, notifications, escalations, and delegations. The self-service portal should be user-friendly. It should allow a user to only access the things that relate to their jobs. There should be the ability to track all processes. And it should also have collaboration tools so that a user can talk to other people related to the process. And then finally, reporting and dashboards. There should be the ability to be able to set KPIs and be able to track those, the ability to be able to see all the steps from an audit perspective of everything that happened, and you should be able to custom schedule reports and processes. Let's talk a little bit about the technology. We believe it should be a web services architecture. It should be open with REST APIs. There should be standard tasks such as Excel push-pull or PDF push-pull. It should allow integration into virtually any system or database. It should be cloud-based or on-premise. It should allow integration with third-party software such as ERP, CRM, or optic character readers, or robotic process automation, OCR and RPA. Sometimes in discussions, our customers will ask us the difference between BPM Suites and workflow automation. Basically, our advice to them is don't overcomplicate things and don't overbuy. I'll go through a few things that will help you make this decision. Usually workflow is one or many processes, but BPM is many processes and many of them are interdependent. Process complexity. Workflow is simple to vary. BPM is usually very complex. The speed of implementation, weeks to months at most. BPM, months to years. In-house resources, sometimes you don't need that many people to do a workflow, but with BPM, you need many. Training, workflow, somewhere around 20 hours. BPM, several weeks, maybe several months. Scale, it's usually from a workflow perspective, departmental or organization. BPM can be enterprise. ROI, weeks to months. BPM, years. And the cost, usually workflow is low to moderate. BPM can be significant. Let's talk about the ROI that some of our workflow automation use cases have resulted in. First one is a global pharma company. They had a global problem related to the requests of application developers. They were able to reduce from 3 weeks to 4 days the amount of time it took to get an approval for an application developer. And because of the fact that many of the requests went away because they were no longer approved, they were able to reduce application development requests by 96%. We had a logistics company that was able to decrease or increase, I should say, their orders processed by 30%, and it saved them $300,000 in the first year. We work with a national non-for-profit. They would come up with new programs and send them out to their board to get approval. Once they automated their process, they saw a 94% decrease in cycle time. Finally, we work with a government consultant. They had a problem getting invoice approved after they put in automated workflow. They saw a 93% decrease in approval time. As we talked about, workflow is used across the enterprise. In many situations, we find one particular department sponsoring the first workflow, and then it spreads. And what happens is people see the benefit and the power of automated workflow. And so soon you have departments like marketing or sales or legal asking to have an automated workflow implemented for their department. That concludes our conversation related to automated workflow and how it might help your enterprise. Briefly, I am from Integrify. We've been in business for a long time. We have a great base of companies. We have over 300,000 users worldwide, over 10,000 processes in production. We're experts in workflow creation and workflow implementation. Our product, of course, is an automated workflow platform, no code, low code. It's got robust customization, web services based, open with APIs, and it's available in the cloud, private cloud, and on-premise platforms. For more information, visit our website, request a demo, or email our sales area. Thank you so much for your time today.